What if this happens to somebody else coming down the line where it just keeps going with this archaic law that they have since 1975 that hasn't changed and is not representing the people that it needs to represent? The hospital I went to, that they transferred me to, literally said, Mr. Barber, if you had not came, you would have died in your sleep. That's exactly what's his words. Be an advocate for getting this law changed, because you don't know if you will become affected by medical malpractice. And nobody thinks of that. Most people think it won't happen to me, but it can happen to you. So go to your representatives. We need to take a stance to get this law changed. My name is Paul Barber, and this is my story. With my experience, I woke up one day, I was just feeling really, really bad. And I had a doctor friend of mine, and I called him, and I told him my symptoms. He's like, just go to the ER. So I went to the ER, and I was feeling just terrible. I went there, and I've been to this ER before. I'm severely allergic to penicillin. It's in my records. It was in my military records. So I go there. I tell the doctors about it. I didn't know what he prescribed me, so he gave me 2 prescriptions. My daughter went with me. So she took me home, drove me home. She came back with the prescriptions, so I took the prescriptions as required. And the next morning I woke up, I couldn't walk, I couldn't move. I went to the bathroom, and I saw blood in my urine. So I'm like, something's going on, like something's right. So I called my daughter. She was at work. She said, Daddy, you think you can drive? And I said, I think I can drive to the hospital. So I drove myself to the hospital, which is about 2-3 miles from where I live. I get there, I go to the ER. They take me in the room. They take some blood. 20 minutes later, another doctor come in, and she said, Mr. Barber, we have a problem. And I said, so what do you mean we have a problem? She said, your kidneys have shut down to 1%. Then it dawned on me. I said, oh my God. And I told her this. I said, ma'am, I'm allergic to penicillin. I had the prescriptions with me, and I looked at it and saw what it was. So I'm a veteran. She called the VA. The VA was like, you got to transport him to the nearest hospital. The hospital that I was at didn't have the facilities for kidney facilities. So they transferred me to another hospital. I get to the hospital. I'm in the emergency room. My ex-wife is there. My daughter's there. And I see them crying. And I'm looking around. I'm in pain, but it's just I just felt like sick. So I see some doctors rush in, people rush in, and they finally put me on a bed, and they rushed me upstairs. And I could see, when they rushed him, I looked in the mirror, my skin was literally peeling in front of their face. And so then I just see it, I freak out. I get upstairs, doctors come in, they tell me what's going on. They're hooking me up to all types of antibiotics and medicine. By this time, it's all in my mouth. Skin is, I had blisters inside of my mouth. I had skin just peeling in front of me. I'm in tremendous pain. And so I go, they give me the antibiotics, they give me all this stuff. The next morning, they was like, hey, you're gonna have to go into surgery, because they had to check what was going on inside. So when I walk, the doctors come in, it's like 5 doctors. So the head doctor, and I asked him, I said, Doc, do you think all this happened from them giving me penicillin? He said, oh, it's 100%, there's no doubt. So I had to go, they went inside, checked me inside, gave me medication for that, and I'm in the hospital for 4 or 5 days, just sitting there, skin peeling, feeling terrible from something that the doctor prescribed to me that he knew that I was allergic to. Not only was I allergic to it, I'm severely allergic to it. And he knew that, which I just didn't understand. There were so many other medications that he could have gave me. This is what he prescribed to me, knowing that I was allergic to penicillin, which affected me now still to the day. I have severe kidney damage. I have liver and pancreas damage. I'm on insulin now from all of this, and I was a healthy person, a veteran, Navy veteran. Nothing happened to me in the military. I was healthy for a man. I had some shoulder surgeries and that type of stuff, but nothing internal, nothing with my organs. And now I have to live with that for the rest of my life. Being on insulin, going to the hospital, worried about my kidneys, worried about my pancreas, worried about my liver, all because this doctor made a mistake of giving me something that he knew I was allergic to. Is this it? I have 5 children, and I'm going through my mind thinking, okay, what's going to happen if I'm gone? Because I had two kids in college at the time. One had just graduated, so I'm thinking, okay, Daddy's paying all these bills for them to go to college. What if I don't make it? What's going to happen if I die when they tell me my kidneys are shutting down? Not only that, am I going to have to be on dialysis the rest of my life? Am I going to need a kidney transplant? All this stuff is going through my mind, and I really honestly was thinking, why did this doctor give me something that he knew that I was allergic to? It just didn't make any sense to me on why this happened to me. And all I'm thinking was like, why me? Because I'm looking at my daughter who's crying, and it just made me think of my kids, like, their daddy might not make it. Kidneys are shut down. How's this going to affect me and them the rest of my life? The treating physicians at the hospital I went to, that they transferred me to, literally said, Mr. Barber, if you had not came, you would have died in your sleep. That's exactly what's his words. Through my attorneys, I found out that medical malpractice is so frequent that people don't understand what goes on in hospitals or treatment from doctors in healthcare, how frequent this stuff happens to people. And some people don't get compensated at all, or they get the compensation is so low that it doesn't help them through their daily life. And actually, some people lose loved ones, and there's no price that you can get for losing a loved one or a child or a husband or a wife or some sort of relative. I found out that Louisiana has one of the worst medical malpractice laws in the United States. What I found out about Louisiana's medical malpractice law is that it's an archaic law that's been on the books since 1975, and there's not been any change to that whatsoever. And there's a cap on what people can get. So, like I say, you see movies or you read about someone getting $10 million because they lost a loved one and they awarded medical malpractice. But in Louisiana, there's a cap. So it doesn't matter if you lose a loved one, a limb, your life, a relative, or whatever, there's a cap only which you can get, which I think is so unfair to victims of medical malpractice. I don't think there's no way that doctors or hospitals or any medical facility should have to pay less than what someone else in another state has to pay because they made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but that mistake should be owned up to. That mistake should be compensated fairly as in other states if someone has a medical malpractice against them. In my experience, doctors, hospitals, whatever medical personnel is, they don't own up to anything that happens. It's a mistake. And I think it would be better if they just say, hey, I made a mistake. You call your insurance company that they have to pay into and say, I made this mistake and I want to correct it because it was my fault. But in Louisiana, doctors fight you, hospitals fight you, medical people fight you to try to say, I didn't do this wrong, I didn't do this. So you have to wind up going to court to get anything out of these doctors that clearly it was medical malpractice and mistakes they made. When you go into a hospital and a doctor makes a mistake or personnel makes a mistake, and it affects you the rest of your life, and you have to worry about, I'm not getting compensated and I can only get this cap on this amount. How can you feel safe going to a hospital knowing that, am I going to get the right doctor that really cares about my ailment or my sickness? Or am I going to get this doctor that knows, we just have a cap on this, don't worry about it. And they send you home. And fatalities sometimes happen from this, the care that you get. The experience I had, which made me join the Patient Rights Advocacy Forum, is because now with the research and through my attorneys learning more about medical malpractice, I want to help other people. It's too late for me, but what if this happens to somebody else, coming down the line? What if it just keeps going with this archaic law that they have since 1975 that hasn't changed and is not representing the people that it needs to represent? What's going to happen later on the line if one of my relatives or one of my kids this happens to? So are they not going to get compensated for people who lose their lives or they get medically affected the rest of their life? So I feel I can take a stance and use my platform to bring awareness to what goes on in the state of Louisiana with medical malpractice. We can't be something for everyone, but we can be something for ourselves, which means that if we can take a stance and we go by I call it the 10-person rule, where one person knows 10 people, they know 10 people down the line. So we can make people more aware of what's going on and our friends what's going on. That one person can make a change. Change it throughout the history of this country has sometimes been made by one person starting something. Go to your legislators, talk to your representatives, talk to people in the community. Be an advocate for getting this law changed, because you don't know if you will become affected by medical malpractice. From my story, I'm telling you, there was never a doubt in my mind that I thought I would be in a hospital almost dying from medical malpractice. I never thought that in my entire life. And nobody thinks of that. Most people think it won't happen to me, but it can happen to you. So go to your representatives. We need to take a stance to get this law changed. We have a platform out there for you to join, for you to go to your representatives, for you to like the pages, for you just to be a part of what we're trying to do to get a law that should be and needs to be changed. And also, I would like you to go to the website and give a donation, no matter how small or how big it is. Every little bit helps. So we can get a large sum to go to fight in the representative states and in the state house or whatever to get this law changed. So please donate and help whatever you can, any kind of way you can, so we can get this law changed.